Hello everyone, this is M. Schroeder Films here with another Blu-ray unboxing of my Universal 100th Anniversary Collection on Blu-ray. Now, this was released in 2012, and I'm pretty sure there's a select few on Amazon, but I've had this for almost 3 years now because I got it as a birthday present. And it is really a nice collection, especially if you have some of these films. Like, it's definitely something to hang in like your shelf or like movie display corner or for film goers. It definitely is worth it's definitely worth the memorabilia to have, and again, it's like probably $87 on Amazon, so I would, I recommend this gift. So without further ado, let's get into this. So here we have the front of it, which is scenes from different of the films that are in this set. Like here we got Back to the Future, The Birds, Breakfast Club, E.T., Field of Dreams, Dracula, Spartacus, and on the back you got the on the back you got the other films in the set too. The Bourne, Do the Right Thing, Out of Africa, All Quiet on the Western Front, Buck Privates, Fast and the Furious. And here we got the little back of it. Mine didn't stick. It talks a little bit about the box set, what films are in this set, and a little look inside. Like we get an exclusive book, music CD, a bonus disc, and over a lot of bonus features. So without further ado, let's get into this box. So once you get into it, and here we got the side, a little dark blue starry background. So once you get into this box, you'll receive two things: the movies and this little booklet that says 100 Years of Universal Studios. And I'm just going to run through it real quick, show everything, because I know some videos only show it limited, but I might just show the whole thing. So here's the back. Oh, sorry about the glare. Here's the logo that started in 2012, and that is still the logo right now, other than the 100th anniversary part. And once you open this up, let's get it open, you get the contents. Sorry about the glare. And here we have an introduction by the president and the COO of Universal Studios, Ron Mayer. He talks a little briefly about the studio and its films and its history and his signature. And here we start with the founder of Universal Studios, Carl Laemmle, who started the studio back in 1912, and before that he started calling it the Carl Laemmle Pictures, and he made films in New Jersey and stuff like that. And then we get into the starting of Universal, the first decade. So, and then there's the logo of the time when they were doing silent films. Excuse me. And here we have some talk about like the studio becoming a manufacturing company, and then when it actually started to become a motion picture business, Carl Laemmle getting control. And then we have the first feature for the Universal called Trafficking Souls, which is a film about prostitution back then. Probably not defined prostitution now, but prostitution back in the early days. And then at the bottom of each page you get a little timeline right here, so the first 100 years, and it's a little interesting trivia on like the studio, what films are their most popular in their history, when the studio started off, and some interesting trivia about the studio itself and what's going on. Here we got some stills. And again, this is a very interesting book. So here we have when Universal actually becomes a city, like where you can film anything. Like they have a western area. They got a little man-made lagoon. They got facades and everything, and I mean everything. Because I went to Universal Studios it's been about a year and a half. I went with my father as a senior trip, and this studio was like the best trip I had. Was going to LA, touring the studios, and I was on a VIP tour of this studio, and it was great. So here we have two at the bottom of the decades. We got the best of the rest films that are worth mentioning, and then we get into the 20s. Here we have some pictures of Lon Chaney as the Hunchback and the Phantom, and then the studio opening up. the logo. And here we have Irving Thalberg, who was one of the workers in New York of Universal Studios. And here we have the timeline. As you can see, we got Shipwrecked Cannibals, then we have The Hunchback with Lon Chaney, Phantom of the Opera. They actually tore down that stage a few, I think back in 26, about a year or so ago. So I mean, it is this collection is kind of, like I said, it's been outdated, but oh well, still worth having. And here you have Erich Von Stroheim, famous, I believe he's a director. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, director, famous director. I talked to him a lot. My film classes talked about him a little bit. Here we have famous Lon Chaney Sr. Here we have him in the monster makeups. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Here we have him in Phantom of the Opera. And then Paul Lenny, who's done other like silent horror films, including this one, The Cat in the Cannery, and The Man Who Laughs. And here's the best of the rest. And then we'll start getting into the 30s, and here we got All Quiet on the Western Front, Dracula, My Man Godfrey, and then the studio office. And here's the logo, which we're all probably familiar with from the classic monsters. So here we get into Carl Laemmle Jr., who was in charge of the studio on his 21st birthday. Here we have All Quiet on the Western Front. It also includes movies were Academy Awards. And some interesting trivia about Frankenstein right here. And yep, Dracula, Frankenstein, some of the classic monsters are being released during this time. Monsters was like a jewel of the studio back in the day. So here we got about the horror cycle. Here we have about Dracula. And then the Spanish version of Dracula. And here we talk about James Whale and Frankenstein, and I believe a little bit about The Bride of Frankenstein. We have The Mummy, also Boris Karloff, both films. And here we got some other films during the decade. We got Showboat, My Man Godfrey, Three Smart Girls, and Destiny Rides Again. And here we have The Invisible Man with Claude Rains. And here we have one of the most famous horror makeup artists back in those days, Jack Pierce. He has done most of the classic monsters for up to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And here we get into some like serials like Flash Gordon, Oswald the Lucky Bunny, animated shorts, which include Woody Woodpecker as well. And then when the Laemmles lost the studio, they went bankrupt because of Showboat. They were only able to watch it from the side. They got bankrupt with making the film. And then here's Deanne Durbin, who helped the studio get out of bankrupt. And then we got other key films, a lot more this time. And then here we get into the 40s, where we get Alfred Hitchcock starting off in America. We got Abbott and Costello, another Hitchcock film, The Egg and I. And here's the studio logo we're familiar with from the 40s. And here we got a little talk about Abbott and Costello, their time in Universal Studios when they started, to their last film, Meet the Mummy. I don't know why they don't have it in there. And here we talk about My Little Chickadee with Mae West and W.C. Fields, Buck Privates, The Wolfman, Claude Rains, Phantom of the Opera. Some interesting fact about a house on that was built. Having Costello Meet the Frankenstein. Here we got a little talk about W.C. Fields and when they started using Technicolor. And here we talk about one of my favorite directors, Alfred Hitchcock. Here we got The Wolfman. When Universal partnered with International Pictures, became Universal International. Here we have The Egg and I. More Best of the Rest. Here we go into the 50s. The Silent Earth, which is not in this set. Pillow Talk. Ma and Pa Kettle, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Oh, sorry about that. Let me show the logo real quick. There's the logo. Here we talk about Ma and Pa Kettle, Francis the Talking Mule, and more other good films on their timeline. Here we have Harvey, Jimmy Stewart classic. Jimmy Stewart and Anthony Mann together in a couple westerns and non-westerns. And here we talk about the science fiction films becoming a craze in the 50s, starting off with It Came from Outer Space. And another last famous monster, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Another sci-fi, The Silent Earth. Incredible Shrinking Man. And here we have one of the last of the Muggles, Lew Wasserman. He helped the studio a lot during his time working with the studio with revenue, distribution, and all that. He definitely made... Oh, and here he made a lot of... He helped the studio out a lot during his time. And even including this little factoid, he helped MCA Universal buy the Paramount Pre-48 library, and it's a little talk about it. And then there's some of the films that worth mentioning, but there's over 750, so they bought a lot and they made a fortune. Then here we get to talk about some 50s stuff like Rock Hudson and Doris Day's films, Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. And here we get into the 60s. And everyone's familiar with this one, 60s all the way up to, I think, the 90s, that logo. And here we have Hitchcock Returns for the Birds, Psycho, and the rest of his career was here at Universal. So here MCA buys Universal, some interesting factoids. And here we have Don Knotts, famous comedian, and Spartacus. Long film, but one of the greatest films of the 60s. Here we have To Kill a Mockingbird, another good one. Charade. And then we got about the studio tour starting up. The Best of the Rest. Sorry about the glare. And here we jump into the 70s. Here we have disaster films. They were starting to use the shaky cam and sense around. And here we have Earthquake, Airport. And more films during the decades. Sorry. And here we have Steven Spielberg starting up with, talking about his beginnings and how Jaws made him a phenomenon. American Graffiti, The Sting, The Deer Hunter, one of my favorites, Animal House, classic. Here's The Best of the Rest. Here we have the 80s. And so here we get E.T. Some more films. Back to the Future, Scarface. John Hughes, director during the 80s, who did 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Weird Science. We got Out of Africa, more on the timeline. Field of Dreams, more Best of the Rest. And then we get into the 90s, which I'm familiar with that logo. And here we have, I can't pronounce that name, but a company in, I believe, Japan that bought Universal, MCA Universal. And here we have Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, both by Spielberg. Great films. Here we got the movie Babe. Seagram buys MCA. And here's some films they made while they bought it. Here we have American Pie, hilarious movie. The Mummy, remake. Waterworld, Apollo 13, Best of the Rest. And we get into the modern logo that everyone's familiar with, the 2000s to 2012. Little minion. Here, Vinvetti, independent studio, Focus Features. The Fast and the Furious. The Bourne. NBC Universal. Beautiful Mind is what my finger's covering up. Academy Award winners, Judd Apatow, Mamma Mia. Despicable Me. Comcast now acquires Universal. Best of the Rest during the 2000 to 2012. And there you have it. And here's a motto by Carl Laemmle. So without further ado, now let's get into the movies. So here we have the nice little movie thing with all the films listed in a blue, dark blue, black, starry background. Here we start with the first one, All Quiet on the Western Front. And some little stills and bonus features. And what's nice too, it talks about the film, but also gives a little in-depth trivia about the film, about what happened during its release, and maybe some interesting factoids about actors, directors. Sorry, that's my phone. And then the discs are not like the standard ones that you see in the other collections. They are actually a silver disc that almost imitates the poster, and it's really nice. I like how they made it specifically for this collection, different discs. And then the next film we got is Dracula. This includes the Bela Lugosi version and the Spanish version of Dracula. So you get really two films in this, which is pretty nice. Which the Spanish version is definitely worth watching if you're big into horror films. And here we got the disc. Here we got Abbott and Costello and Buck Privates. Bonus feature. Let's see if I can grab it. Pillow Talk, Rock Hudson and Doris Day. Still can't get that song out of my head. Next one is Spartacus, Kirk Douglas classic by Stanley Kubrick, which is kind of odd because a lot of Stanley Kubrick films, they never mentioned this one. This one was definitely one of his big ones, and I'm surprised none of my film classes talk about this film. We talk about 2001 Space Odyssey, but not Spartacus. It is a great film. Here we got To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck. Bonus feature. The pictures, and here we got the disc. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. I'm still shocked why they didn't put Psycho in here. American Graffiti. The Sting with Paul Newman, Robert Redford. Now, a lot of these don't have a lot of special features, but some of them are very, very lengthy, some of the documentaries, so they, yeah, I mean, it kind of is fair. I mean, they are very lengthy. Jaws. Except this one's got a lot of them. One of my favorites, Animal House. Although that's because I'm in college right now. Still a classic. No, definitely. If you're a college student and you must see this movie. Like, if you're going to college, getting ready to go to college, or almost done, and you have to see this film if you're in college or becoming a college student, because this is one of the college films. I mean, you have to see. I have a couple people who I'm friends with here at college and never seen it, and it's worth watching. Here we got E.T. Scarface. Love this film. Out of a good gangster film. Breakfast Club. Excuse me. Breakfast Club. Again, if you're in high school, good high school movie. Back to the Future. Another great 80s classic. Out of Africa. I mean, it's good cinematography, a great film, but it's just so long and dragging. I mean, you could watch this film at your own risk, but it is long, it is dragging. Just not a fan of it. Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner, one of a great baseball film. I like it myself. Not big in the baseball, but it is a good film. Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee film. Is actually part of the Criterion Collection DVDs and Blu-rays too. But I didn't want to buy that. I'd rather get this. That's just me. I don't want to rebuy movies. That's just not a thing with me. But it does like depict a lot about stereotypes and racism. One of the films that got me in the studying film, Jurassic Park. Watched this ever since I was young and enjoyed it. And still do. It's just a great piece of film. With CGI and the dinosaurs. It's just a great film. Great film. Here we have Apollo 13. Houston, we have a problem. And the Fast and the Furious, the first one out of the franchise. Fate of the Furious is out on Blu-ray and DVD. Just, I don't know if you guys know, but I have all of them. I still have to see the 8th one. I still haven't seen it. But a lot of people give me mixed reviews about it. But, again, I'm going to watch that 8th one at my own risk, but this is the best one out of the whole franchise. Maybe you guys got your opinions, that's fine, but I think this is like the best one out of the franchise. Nothing can top it. And here we have The Bourne Identity, Matt Damon. Probably going to fingerprints out each disc. Mamma Mia. More of a chick flick. I've seen it, but it's a great musical. Yeah, they don't pack these discs that well. And we have the last one. That's my phone, sorry. The last one, Despicable Me. great film, and they're making a third one, I believe. Or no, no. I think they're making another one, spin-off of the Minions, I believe. I'm not too sure on that, so don't take me word for word on it. But I believe another Despicable Me is coming, and the same company that made this film with the CGI is also doing a remake of The Grinch in all CGI. I think coming out next year, so that ought to be interesting too, seeing The Grinch being remade. Okay, and the next couple things I'm going to show you is, this is a little bonus disc that comes in with the collection. It is a DVD of the 100 Years of Universal, and it breaks it down in the segments, like, you got the Carl Laemmle era, where they talk about, Carl Laemmle starting off, getting into the studio and his legacy, Lew Wasserman taking role at MCA and buying the studio, which films were Academy Award winners, the studio during the 70s, the 80s, talks about the backlot, great documentary, unforgettable characters, and restoring their classics. And here's some vintage shorts, like little short clips and cartoons. And here we got Carl Laemmle, Lew Wasserman, Woody Woodpecker, and the studio backlot. And here we have some posters of films. Deer Hunter and Schindler's List. They are not in the Blu-ray collection, but Schindler's List is in the DVD collection. That's right, if you get the DVD collection, you get Schindler's List, but the downfall is you don't get Dracula, the Spanish version. So, yeah, if you're looking into the DVDs, if you don't have a Blu-ray, that's the next option. So here it is, again, it's just a plain old blue disc, bonus disc, DVD. And then here we got a CD soundtrack, which I like to hear it from time to time. It's pretty nice to have all the classic themes playing on your CD player. Pull it out, same as the other disc. And then we got some stills from each of the films in this collection. Here we got Dracula, Field of Dreams, Back to the Future, Fast and the Furious, Schindler's List, so forth, so on. And then another quote by Carl Laemmle himself. And then that is it. So again, that is my Universal 100th Anniversary Collection. 25 films in one collection, and 25 of their films that they think were worth putting in this collection. So again, this is the Universal 100th Anniversary Collection. And like I said, this is very rare. I don't know if they still have them anymore, but on Amazon you can get them for like $87 or so, but the new ones are going to cost you a fortune. Probably at least $200 is the most I've seen. But all in all, it's a good collection. Even if you still have some of the films in this, it's still worth getting. Like, I remember I had most of the films, but then I sold them, and because I knew I had this, and I felt like this was it, I didn't want to rebuy these films. So again, that's the Universal 100th Anniversary Collection. And that is my video today. And please subscribe, like my video, like my channel. And again, this is M. Schroeder Films. I do have no idea when my next film will be, film review or unboxing I should say, is going to be, because I am currently in school right now working on my degree in cinematography. So the next video will probably be around Christmas time, if at latest New Year's. So yep, just take a quick shot. See, I'm studying. So yeah, I don't know when the next video will be. So again, like my channel, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this collection, about any of the films in this collection too, the studio itself, yada yada yada. Again, like, subscribe, and again, this is M. Schroeder Films.